Good morning, everybody. Ori Spado here, the accidental gangster with stories with Ori. Today, I have a very special guest, my brother, my friend, the one and only known throughout the world, Freeway Ricky Ross. Good morning, Ricky.
How you
How
doing,
are you,
Ori?
bro?
Good to see you.
You know, Ricky, I've been doing more reading about you, and these two books that you have written are probably two of the best well-written books I've ever read.
I'm glad you.
And you know, Ricky, I'm an avid reader. I have been all my life.
Yeah, these books really come from the heart. When I was in prison and I didn't think I was ever coming home again, and I decided, wow, what could I do for the young guys? Who might be following our path.
That's right.
Thinking about taking a path of crime. And I said, wouldn't it have been wonderful when I was coming up if there would have been a book that I could have picked the book up and read, and it would have told me everything that was going to happen in my life. And I felt that we needed a book like that.
Well, you did it, Ricky. And you know, it's a book that when you pick it up from the preface, right from the beginning, you get sucked right in. You just want to keep reading and reading more. And you do that with both your books.
Yeah.
You know what a lot of people don't know about you, Ricky? That you were 28 years old before you learned to read. Is that correct?
I was, yeah.
And where did you learn to read?
In prison.
In prison?
In prison, yeah. My cellie made me some cue cards. I started off with, learning my ABCs all over again, learn how to sign them out, and a couple of weeks I was reading the newspaper.
Now, what prison was that?
Really two prisons, Phoenix, FCI Phoenix, and also MCC San Diego. San Diego, is a detention center. It's not really a prison. It's a prison to us, but they don't call it a prison. They call it a detention center. But, to me, it's a prison. Just really worse than the prisons. Detention centers are worse than the prisons to me. I hated detention centers.
Yeah, they were horrible. I agree with you.
Yeah, that 23-hour lockdown
right.
is pretty brutal to me. No grass, no dirt, no trees. No
nothing, man.
No sunlight.
And one of the worst is the Eastern District of New York, DC.
Yeah.
Oh my God, horrible. But Ricky, you were brought up. You were born in Eastern Texas.
Yes.
In a small town of about 1,400 people. Right?
Yeah. You did your research.
Yes.
It's always good when you talk to people that really know the story. A lot of people, they just want to do interviews just to get numbers, but when you actually talk to somebody who has really dove into your psychic, because when I wrote this book, I wanted people to get into my psychic. I wanted them to literally get into my head and understand the way I think, the way I tick.
Well, the thing is, your voice comes off the pages. I understood how you were thinking, what you were going through. You've gone through some really things in your lifetime that people don't go through. Coming from that small town to Eastern Texas, how you ended up here in Los Angeles, and the things that your mother was a key person in your life.
Absolutely.
She had to be one wonderful lady.
My mother and my father.
Your mother and your father.
That's what she was.
Yeah.
She had to play both roles.
Yes, and she did an awesome job. But her brother, you were how old when you witnessed your mother defending her sister?
About 4 or 5.
You were 4 or 5 years old when you witnessed your mother defending, it was your sister, right?
Yep.
All right, against
sister-in-law.
Sister-in-law. After her brother, your uncle, who you admired,
loved,
who used to drive you around in the garbage
like my father.
trucks.
He was like my father.
Yeah, he drove you around the garbage trucks, even though you had the smell. It was still
young men want to gravitate to a man. You know, you love your mom, but it's something about a man that piques the interest of a young boy. You know, he wants to be a man. So we find ourselves gravitating, at least for me, myself, you know, to older guys, you know, that are doing things, and my uncle was that guy for me.
Well, he was, and that's amazing that he's the one that gave your mother a gun to defend herself when she got in Los Angeles, and he's ended up dying by that gun.
Yeah.
But your mother was one awesome lady, and
Yeah, she was.
you gotta be very proud of that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
You are today what you are.
My mom would come to the prison, would drive at 80-something years old by herself to see me at the prison when I was in San Diego.
Gee.
And I had to tell her, stop doing it. You know, don't
That
drive.
was the federal prison?
Yeah.
That was the federal prison.
Yeah, it's a federal prison in San Diego. You know, San Diego has the first federal detention center that was owned by the feds.
Really?
Yeah, it's the same one Patty Hearst was held at. I think they built it. Remember when Patty Hearst got arrested?
Oh,
they
my
built
God.
it, I think, to house her there or something. I don't know the whole history behind it,
Yeah.
but it was the first detention
That's
center.
not Pelican Bay, though.
No, not Pelican Bay. It's called MDC San Diego.
MDC San Diego.
You know, and
Now, how long were you there?
I did 6 years in that place.
You did 6 years?
Yeah.
And a detention center?
In a detention center. I did 3 years fighting my case. And then when I won my appeal, I came back and I stayed there another 3 years while I was going through the appeal process.
How did you win your appeal? Well, it was because you studied the law.
Correct.
You did that on your own, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. Had I not learned how to read, it's a good chance I would still be in prison right now today.
You know, that is such, people don't understand that when you're locked up. You know, I was the same way. I studied law. If I didn't study law, I'd still be in prison today.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, one of the things that my lawyer taught me, probably the best thing he ever did for me, was got me to understand that nobody should know more about my case than I knew about my case myself.
That's right.
And once I learned that, but I apply that to everything I do now. You know, nobody in any business I go into, I don't care what it is, and I don't care how far you are ahead of me. You could be years and years, you know, just like this weed business that I'm in now. You know, these guys been doing this for 20, 30 years. I only been in this business about 8 years, but I don't want none of these people to be smarter than me in the weed business.
You know, and that's a very interesting thing. Here you were, okay, what you did in the past, but today you got a license
To sell
legitimately,
marijuana.
all right? And
I'm a
you're
legal marijuana dealer.
And you're marijuana, and you're opening your place. You got the license in
Sun Valley.
Sun Valley.
Yeah, I'll be opening up December 1st will be the soft opening, and what my guys are gonna do, I just found out my crimey, Chico Brown, he wants to throw my birthday party for me. So I said, you know what?
When's your birthday?
The 26th of January. So
Oh, yeah?
I said, why do we do a grand opening for the dispensary one day and then have a birthday party the next day? So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna do a whole day of Rick Ross, the grand opening of the dispensary. Then that night we're gonna throw
You gotta let me know when that is, and I'm gonna be out there.
you better come.
Okay?
Hey, you better come.
And I'll bring my son. I'll be there. You know, Ricky, people don't realize, okay? And this is a book, Riding with Rick, The 21 Keys to Success.
You like that one?
I like that.
You like Cody Crutcher too?
I like Cody. He's a great author, great writer. But you know what? There was a reporter, and I love the words. Ricky Ross has the charisma of a con man.
Jesse Katz.
And
Jesse Katz.
And you know how true that is? Do you know that your biggest people in the motivational world were con men, beginning with Napoleon Hill?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. You know Napoleon Hill never spoke to Carnegie? Carnegie never knew him.
No.
Yeah, that never happened. Napoleon Hill used to go from town to town, all right, with different cons. But the one thing he did do was write that book, Think and Grow Rich.
I love that book. I love that book.
And same here. And a lot of people
And I don't
do.
care if he did lie about meeting Dale, he put together a book that really has changed my life. That book helped me get out of prison.
That book is one of the greatest books ever written.
Wow.
I'll tell you, I can tell you a story.
You said Napoleon was a con man.
Yeah. And, you know,
Wow.
I love those words they report, the charisma of a con man. But see, because a con man, you got to be able to convince people to give him your money.
Or do whatever it is you want him to do.
Whatever you want them to do. And how do you do that? By trust. You got to gain their trust, their confidence. They got to love you. I've done it a million times. I know what it is.
I guess it's the same thing, you know. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, when you're selling drugs, you know, when I started selling drugs, none of my friends wanted to do it.
They didn't want to do the
None
job.
of my guys wanted to sell drugs. I had a crew. Before I started selling drugs, we had a little crew that we grew up together. We didn't gang bang. You know, we played football together. We rode bikes together. Probably about 15 of us. You know, this was our crew. And when I started selling drugs, they all kind of shined on it. Like, you're selling drugs. You know, and I had to convince them, you know, the benefit of selling drugs. So I guess my success is kind of like a con.
Yeah.
You know, I guess, I don't know. I mean, when you mention it like that there, because when people see you do well, then they want to do what you do.
You know, another thing is...
Or what you want them to do.
That's what a con man does. But you almost became... You wanted to become a Crip at one time.
I
But you
did.
changed your mind on that. How old were the Crips at that time? Were they just
I think they were
beginning?
pretty young. Yeah,
Pretty
maybe
young.
a year or two old when I first heard about them. I'm not for sure. I want to do a documentary on Crippin' and Bloodin', from a different perspective, from somebody from the inside. You know, I don't really think that the real inside stories, and there's some guys now that have just got out of prison, you know, that I know, you know, my age, who started, you know, Crippin' at, you know, 12 and 13 years old when it first started.
Well, wasn't one of the founders Michael Concepcion?
That's a rumor that Mike was one of the founders.
Yeah.
I met Mike. I didn't meet Mike until I was around 19 or 20 years old, and the Crips had been going pretty strong then. So
He was not in a wheelchair at that time.
no, he was in a wheelchair when I met him.
19 years old he was?
Yeah, when I was 19,
Yeah.
he was already in a wheelchair. Might have been 20, 21
Yeah.
when I met him. So I don't know if he was one of the original Crips, but I know guys now that know the real story, that can lay it out. You know, just got out of prison doing 45 years and 35 years. They was right there with Tookie and Raymond Washington. I got a guy that was there, he claims, when Raymond Washington got killed.
Really?
Yeah.
That'd be a very, very awesome book. Well, let's get back to you, though. You had so many stories. You've done so many things in your life. But one thing that you and I do have in common is keeping youth out of the life of the gang, or out of the life in my case. And you've accomplished it in so many different ways, Ricky. And you got how many books? Two? Just the two books?
I got these two, and then I got another one on business financing. You know, how to finance your business. Mm-hmm. I'm also working on another book right now.
What's that one on?
And this one is called "Why Niggas Don't Want Money."
Man,
it's gonna shake some feathers, but you know, I'm curious to you know, this is a question.
That is one hell of a title. That's the title of the book?
That's the title of the
Oh
book.
my God. Folks, I'm not gonna say it. Ricky, what's the title of that book?
Why Niggas Don't Want Money.
All right, folks, and I'm gonna tell you, and I'm gonna do it right here. All right, these two books. Ricky, where could people go to purchase your books? I know you have a website. I had a couple people on my social media ask me, because I posted these books on my social media. I sent them to your website, and that's where they can get autographed copies, correct?
Yeah, you can get autographed copies from my website. Also, right now, if you order both books, I'll throw you in one of these Real Rick Ross is Not a Rapper t-shirts.
Did you hear that, folks?
But no certain colors, because the colors, you know, sometimes I'll be out of colors. Yeah. So when you order a t-shirt, if you don't order a color, you'll get it immediately. And if you order a special color, sometimes I'm out. So
if you buy both books, he's throwing in a t-shirt.
And say they saw it on.
Huh?
And say they saw it on.
And say you saw it on Stories with Ori. I'm going to repeat that, folks. You must get these two books. I guarantee you, you will love them. I guarantee you, you will learn from them. It'll change your life for the better. That's what people like us do. Okay, we want to help people make it better. And you're going to get a free t-shirt from Ricky.
Calm man for the better.
All right.
I got a lesson today, man. You taught me something I never thought about that.
Oh, we'll get more into it because that's going to be my next book.
Great.
And, you know, Ricky, is there anything special? Because you do a lot of interviews. How many have you done? Probably
knows?
Thousands.
I did Joe Rogan. You know, I was on Joe Rogan's show when his 80th. I did Alex Jones. You know, I've done some of the biggest guys on the internet.
Yeah.
Vlad TV. You know, I'm a kind of person that I don't mind helping people. You know, I don't mind. I've done a lot of guys when they're just coming along, when they're just getting started. I mean, even you called me and got me to do our man Michael Swain show, you know, and
oh yeah.
And you know, I really don't like going on that internet site, you know.
Basically, you know, I'm out of Clubhouse.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't like going on there because people just talk. And,
they talk.
And I don't like to. I'm a doer.
Same here.
You know, and if you get on there and you talk and you talk and you talk and you don't do, then I'm done.
Rick, I do gotta say, the old Clubhouse was good during the pandemic, because when you had people there with money, you had people that were really doing things in life. There were days that I was going to the post office with boxes and boxes of autographs. I'd go into a room, I would sell 4 or 5 books off of my website. You know, I don't know how many I was selling on Amazon.
Right.
But
well, tell them, don't buy my book off Amazon. Please go to my website and buy my book, freewayrickross.com.
Now, it's very simple, folks. freewayrickross.com. Ricky, you and I spoke before. One thing, you know, for the youth, I'm always mentoring young men to stay out of life of crime. And I know you do the same thing.
Absolutely.
And, you know, folks, you watch television, you see these movies, you think it's a glamorous life. It is not. It's totally the opposite of what you see on television or in the movies.
Prison is not fun.
And prison is not funny.
No, not at all. It's crazy. We were just listening to a young man, D1, on the way up here, and he was talking about a lot of the things that these rappers are rapping about. Get a lot of these kids in trouble. You know, these kids go out and try to act out those stories that they hear on radio and on TV, and it's crazy. You know, that so many people who have never even experienced a gangster life, you know, but they tell gangster stories, and guys who really live that life don't get the chance to tell the real stories.
Right.
And that's kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of a bad thing, because now people get the wrong stories, and they get the glamorous side, but they don't get the negative side of these stories. And I think that, you know, fighting with a prosecutor or lying DA agents or lying police, and I'm not trying to bash cops either, but just saying all the things that we go through, you know, when you being a gangster, you know, your family being without you, you know, kids in court crying because they're not going to be around their dad anymore. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that go with this gangsterism that a lot of people just don't, they don't get it.
People don't understand. If somebody goes to prison, it's not affecting just that person that's in prison. That person might have a wife, he's got children, a mother, a father. It's affecting a lot of people.
I agree, and the system just has to change, where, I mean, and it's more opportunities now than when we were coming up. I mean, I could imagine if I would have had the internet, and I probably would have been an internet sensation. You probably would have too. That probably would have been our gangsterism is.
Well, we would have made billions of dollars if that was around in our time.
Right.
Okay, we would have been the best comment of anything on the internet. Okay, and now here I am at my age. I don't know a damn thing about it, and you know. I told my son that, and George Gallo, who's writing and directing my movie, I said, when I die, write the obituary, Ori Spado, the accidental gangster, passed away on this day due to technology. And that's going to be my obituary.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, for the youth of our country, crime does not pay. And you can't get away with crime today. You got cameras all over the place. Everybody's holding a cell phone. You're gonna end up in jail.
Yeah, I would imagine if they would have had cameras with phones with cameras on them when I was coming up. You know, one of the things that I had to my advantage is nobody knew what I looked like.
Right.
You know, the cops and nobody knew what I looked like. They just knew the name. But I'd imagine if they'd have been posting my picture, oh, Freeway Rick Ross, all over the internet, I'd have been like,
you know, Ricky,
nowhere to hide.
You know, that moment that you were in the court, and when the judge put down life in prison, I mean, the feeling that had to come over you. And then your mom,
well, you know, I kind of accepted it. Because I knew, you know.
You knew it was going to happen.
I knew it was going to happen. So, you know, my lawyer had kind of prepared me for about 3 years. You know, I've been sitting in prison 3 years. And even the day that I got arrested, because I'd been in jail before. So I kind of knew the law a little bit. You know, I knew guys who had got 3 struck before, and I knew that I was up against it. And I didn't see no reason why the prosecutor wasn't going to go for 3 strikes with me.
They didn't go for 3 strikes.
No, they went for 3 strikes. That's what they did. They didn't go for the actual. Because, you know, in federal court, you know, 100 kilos of cocaine only carries 10 years in prison. 10, maybe 14 years, something like that. 10-year minimum mandatory.
No, life.
No, not first time. First offender, your guidelines.
Oh, first offender.
First offender, the guidelines is only about 10 to 12 years.
Okay, well, I had 50 kilos or more.
And they must have had you with, and they gave you life.
The newspaper was saying I was looking at life.
No, what the prosecutor, what they say in court though.
But
with 50
God,
kilos.
the informant was so bad, they didn't want to use him.
Yeah, with 50 kilos though, the guidelines is only about, just with 50 kilos, no 5 people, organizer. I'm saying just 50 kilos of cocaine is only like 10 to 12 year minimum mandatory. If you don't have no leadership and all other stuff.
No, I had leadership. I had everything. I had two previous.
Money laundering. I'm saying just plain. Yeah. If you just a carrier.
No, there was no cocaine.
Right.
This was strictly a conspiracy, and it was actually created by the
ghost
informant.
Dope. Ghost dope, they call it. No, the ghost dope. You had a ghost. But I'm saying, and if it would have been, if you just been a carrier and you'd have got on the airplane and you have 50 kilos in your suitcase, and the DA didn't know nothing about you and they arrest you, you'd only been looking at 10 to 12 years.
You do that standing on your head.
Yeah, first offender. So they didn't want to go for that. They wanted the 3 strikes because the 3 strikes would put me away forever.
Well, Ricky, I'm very glad that you are here. I'm very, sometimes we have to be grateful for the bad thing that happened in our life.
Oh, everything that happened to me.
Brought us to who we are today.
I'm grateful for everything. I'm grateful for the time that I spent in prison. I'm grateful for that, and I enjoyed that time. Without being in prison, I wouldn't have wrote this book.
Well, if I wasn't in prison, I wouldn't have wrote a book.
Yeah, so we got to look at that,
Ricky, you're 63 years old.
Yeah.
I was arrested at the age of 63 years old. That's when I went to prison.
Wow.
And a girl told me the other day, she said, I don't believe your age. You look really good. She said, you're lying about your age so people will like you. She said, how do you do it? I said, try going doing a few years in prison, I said, you eat right, start walking the yard, exercising.
Yeah.
But, Ricky, I really appreciate you coming here today. I could sit here all day and have a conversation with you about things. But, you and I are going to be doing a lot of things together. You don't know that yet. And I got something big in mind.
Well, I know you're a con man.
I'm a con man.
Because you keep conning me. Hey, Rick, do this here. Hey, Rick, do this here.
Look at it. You know why?
No, but
I got the charisma of a con man. Those words came from an author, from a writer that wrote about Ricky Ross. A guy that you were friends with, then enemies, then friends. How do you stand with that writer today?
Oh, we cool.
Cool?
Yeah. He did the article in LA Magazine,
right.
The Crack King is back.
Yeah?
He did the Crack King is back. So I'm going to see what he writes, with now that I'm in the weed business, they got to start writing weed stories now.
A lot of people, from my audience, probably don't know, but there was a TV, is it still on, the TV show?
No, it's over. Snowfall.
It's over with Snowfall. It was based upon the life of Ricky Ross right here.
They stole my story.
Huh?
They stole it.
They sold it.
Yeah, rapper stole it. They stole it. Yeah.
It was I got to tell you, it was a great TV series.
It did numbers. It did numbers, definitely.
It was a good show. I don't know how accurate it was to your life, but TV also.
It had some stuff in there,
It had some stuff.
Yeah. But we working on the movie now.
I know you are, Ricky.
So hopefully.
And that movie has got to get made. And anything I can do to help you, I'm here.
I got you. Thank you.
All right. And so, folks, I'm going to have to wrap this up here. But I want to tell you again, okay? Read Ricky Ross, 2 of the best books that you're going to read. 21 Keys to Success. A motivational book from the biggest crack cocaine dealer in the country, who's here today to be able to tell you his life story, and his other book, 2nd edition, Ricky Ross. Folks, you buy both of these, you go to his website, you're going to get that free t-shirt. So do that. Do it now. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.